Life on the Fringes. As we travel along the road towards civilization, we'll start to come across houses, fortifications, and villages. These won't be made of stone. These structures are built on the edges of the wild. They'll be made of whatever materials their inhabitants have nearby. Local people solving local problems. For the sake of getting some extra drawing practice in, I took some time to draw up some generic people to use for scale. A village guard in leather armor, with a crested helmet and bronze-tipped spear, and a citizen wearing silk and jewelry with a dagger hair tie. Later on, I'd like to spend a few videos exploring the various fashions of this world, but for now, these two only have one job, and that's to help us get a sense of how big things are. When designing architecture, it can be helpful to have an underlying guiding principle, some system of rules to work from as a starting point. To imply a great amount of skill, I'm going to imagine that these people were able to figure out and apply the golden ratio of 1 to 1.618. I won't necessarily stick to it perfectly, but it's a place to start. Here, I'm using it to start designing a watchtower, or raised hut. The concept is simple. If there are large, deadly creatures running around, create some distance from them so you can get some sleep. The cabin portion is very high up. To keep it stable, not just from hungry monsters, but also from strong winds, I made it a tripod. To gain access, a simple rope and pulley elevator can descend and ascend from the cabin to the floor. The elevator can also serve a darker purpose. While the tower can foil many animal predators, giants could make quick work of a structure like this. In the event they are discovered by wandering Nephilim, everyone rushes to the safety of the tower. But the last person in the elevator isn't pulled up to the top. Instead, they are left to dangle within the giant's reach, a sacrificial toll paid by the tower dwellers in exchange for being left alone. Being this high up would also make this tower a tempting perch for dangerous flying animals, so they've built a rudimentary pterodactyl weather vane on top to scare them away. They've also dangled various sticks and pieces of metal all around the rim of the rooftop, which act as a deterrent to keep flying predators from swooping in for a morsel. I liked where this drawing was headed, but I had some doubts about whether or not it would work. I built a quick paper and foam core style model in Blender to test it out, and I think I'd call this design a success. I really like the interaction of all the crisscrossing poles in the middle. Models like this are useful as underdrawings to help keep things consistent, especially for locations that appear across multiple drawings. Watchtowers are great for the open plains, but if you happen to live in a place with naturally occurring towers, then you're probably going to build a treehouse. I've got to admit, I was having too much fun drawing these. I used to draw treehouse designs when I was a kid, wildly impractical things with couches, video games, and secret rooms and tunnels built inside. For this treehouse, I started with slightly more practical concerns. Defensive spikes attached to the bottom supports to stop anything that would attempt to climb up from the bottom. Dangling anti-flyer wind chimes over the roof to keep the bigger avian predators at bay. I also thought it would be handy if they could use the forest canopy to their advantage and hang noisemakers at various heights for a few miles around the treehouse. This would not only act as an early warning to the inhabitants if creatures were approaching, but by hanging differently pitched instruments at different heights, they could also tell how large the approaching creature is likely to be. Since the watchtower model worked out so well, and I'm looking for opportunity to work on my 3D muscles, I made a quick mock-up of the treehouse as well. Again, I think this worked pretty well. Seeing it in 3D helps to show just how simple this design is. There's a lot more that can be done overall, but as a starting point, this does show how far people have to go to stay safe-ish. The first treehouse was pretty standard, so I wanted to try something a little more out there. Since glass is now on the menu, I wanted to think of a way to incorporate it here. I thought of humans building nests made of reeds and twigs that cling to the tree trunks. Glass-domed windows offer a lovely and safe view of the forest around them. I included a fully covered bridge between the trees to allow the inhabitants the ability to move around without having to think of what might be watching from above or below. But of course, if we're going to use glass, why not really use glass? A few windows are one thing, but wouldn't it be cool to have a full sphere? Yes, you're correct, it would. So here's an observatory, loaded up with cushions and supplies, no video games sadly. It's supported by some elegant knotwork and connected to the rest of the dwelling with a perilous 3-rope bridge, just to get the heart rate going. In the video about the road, I drew a sketch of highway through an immense bamboo forest. I wanted to sketch up some ways that material could be put to use. One of the first uses I thought of was defense. By using these colossal bamboo stalks as a protective wall, people can carve out a few safe patches of earth on which to live, even far out in the wilds. At this massive scale, by binding and splitting the bamboo and then stretching it over time, they can create entire rooms or watchtowers. A stockade this sturdy, especially when embedded deep into the earth and reinforced, would be enough to slow a large creature, allowing for archers and spearmen to scare it off. Giant bamboo would allow people to build the equivalent of a bunker, to act as a safe house. Again, especially if it was embedded into the earth. Even a giant might struggle to gain access. Because I'm still wanting to nerd out over tree houses, I wanted to explore what a bamboo house might look like. First, I borrowed the split bamboo room, but this time made it far higher from the ground. Next up, using long split pieces as well as smaller bamboo stalks to create a large, wide support structure with a sturdy rooftop of woven fibers. Windows and doors are created in the stock by cutting and slowly bending back the trunk. I also thought it would be the perfect material to build water pathways, kind of like floating docks. With the watchtower and tree houses, we've explored what people can do to create distance from danger. Bamboo is one building material that can defend against danger directly. I wanted to explore one last technique, and that's to trick danger. Starting with this very simple hut, built using tied sticks. Not much to it, but with a bit of embellishment, at a glance it becomes a convincing enough predator-deterring stegosaurus. Here's another version of this concept, a raised hut that still keeps its inhabitants out of reach of most predators, but with some extra bits of decoration, becomes a Nephilim scarecrow, or scare dragon. I wanted to take this stegosaurus design one step further. We've got the base figured out, but I wanted to make it feel a bit more lived in. I gave it a more intentionally woven spine with some wrapped sticks on the front and back. The entire hut is thatched like a roof that touches the ground. With some extra decoration, it becomes an even more convincing stegosaurus, enough to ward off any predator that's had a run-in with that creature before, anyway. Finally, I finished it off with a door surrounded by a sawed front wall, something nice and sturdy and cozy. Earlier, I had drawn up a sauropod hut. Like the stegosaurus, it's meant to mimic the kind of creature that most predators wouldn't think of attacking unless they were desperate. The first draft was fine, but while I don't hate it, I didn't really like it either. What it was missing is something that I'll be trying to inject into every aspect of this project. It needed some artistic flair. It's fine to build practically, there's nothing wrong with that, but I want to design an antediluvian world that's full of art, advancement, expertise, craft. So I decided to try to redesign the sauropod hut with more flourish. I used the flexible bound sticks to create some sweeping curves to emulate the neck, back, and tail. The body is still the main elevated house. You gain access primarily by the rope bridge suspended from the tail, something many non-human creatures would struggle to navigate well. A ladder in the neck allows the sauropod head to be used as a watchtower. I liked this design enough that I had to try it out in 3D as well. Model builders, I know, it's a little scruffy, but remember, this is like a paper and foam core model here. I would call this the most successful design so far. It's built for a purpose, but it has a strong visual identity that's recognizable and shows off the excellent craft these people would be capable of. So we've explored some of the architecture along the fringes, structures built for survival in a dangerous world, using their environment to gain every advantage possible. As we move closer to civilization, we'll start to explore architecture that feels a little more permanent. You can help this project. Click the buttons, leave a comment, go to my website, buy a book or a print, follow me on stuff, sign up on Patreon. Thank you all so much for the support you've already shown. It's been overwhelming. And a special thank you to my Dragging Tier patrons. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.